But speaking of movies that you would see again.
Well, that I have seen many times. So next up we've got Kickboxer 3, The Art of War, from 1992. For anyone who's seen the first two movies, we continue on from there with David Sloan, who travels to Rio de Janeiro with his trainer Xian for an exhibition fight. And while they're over there, they befriend a local homeless boy whose sister is taken by a human trafficker. And so David and Xian, they create some mayhem throughout Rio in an effort to rescue the girl. For anyone who's seen our other Kickboxer discussions, they know I'm a pretty big fan of the series, especially part 2. And, this movie, it's not as good as the first two, but I think it's still moderately enjoyable. At least mainly because you've got Xian, who's from the first two movies. I'm sure a lot of people still appreciate seeing him in the movie. And in fact, he's more of a leading role in this movie, or a co-leading role, as opposed to the previous two, where he's more of a support-type character. I think the main thing with this movie is that even though it does have a main bad guy, it's not the main bad guy that David fights in an actual ring. So that's a big difference to the previous two movies, because we've seen both movies, he's fighting legendary bad guy Tong Po in those, and now he goes to fighting some white dude who can't fight. So that's and obviously there's a lot more action, like gun shooting, that type of action in this movie, whereas there's pretty much none of that in the previous movies. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I thought the scene in which they sort of break into that one guy's house and kill, I think it was the 7 people. It reminded me quite a bit of, I think it's the end of Beverly Hills Cop, where it's the same thing. They break into some guy's house, and it's the same in a lot of action movies. Go after a lot of people to get to someone. This one had a lot more of a action movie feel than it did necessarily a whole kung fu kickboxer type feel. Which I'm okay with. The movie wasn't amazing, but I had a decent enough time with it. There were interesting characters. Obviously, who could have hate Lane? That guy was such a dick. Especially his whole, I'm actually helping these girls, giving them a place to live. It doesn't matter that they're prostitutes. I'm feeding them. Talk about a despicable guy. And it's fun. It's sort of nice seeing the two of them, David Sloan and Zan, work together. It's nice. I guess the one portion of this movie I didn't care as much for was sort of the forced training sequence. It's just being pretty much held at gunpoint and forced to do all these ridiculous, jogging with a backpack full of rocks. I mean, talk about a bad time. No, and if it was just that scene, it might have been okay. But there's 3 or 4 other things that he's supposed to do, and it pretty much led to nothing. All that happened was he slept for 15 hours, and he was mud was thrown on his body, and he drank something, and boom, he's okay. It didn't go anywhere. So I mean, I feel like that part was amusing at times, but it's also sort of wasted. Aside from that, though, I think the movie's pretty enjoyable, and I also like the one police officer guy. By the way, this guy has 7 guards. That would be 7 people guarding him. This guy cracked me up.
I mean, it's kind of funny because even though it's still got plenty of hand-to-hand combat, it's just like someone said, okay, we need guns, not necessarily explosions, but we need guns, we need more comedy, we need, because there's also a lot of comedy to the film, at least in comparison to the previous ones. I mean, Xian's still a bit funny. David's turned into more of a comedian because he's been doing his step-by-step show, and now his character's a lot more similar to his character from that show. So he's a bit more goofy, a bit more fun-loving, I guess. Yeah, I mean, he was a fairly light-hearted guy, I guess, in the second movie, but yeah, he's ramped up the comedy here. But I think it works pretty well as a bit of a buddy movie. A lower quality type buddy comedy action movie.
One thing that I found pretty amusing was just how over-the-top evil the main guy he was fighting was. I guess, the actual guy he was physically fighting. Just he's getting booed by other crowds, but it's just like, hey, screw you guys. Like, that guy's just so over the top dick. Like nobody liked him, but he just kept doing it. It just sort of cracked me up.
Yeah, I also like the part where they're going to get the guns to go, help rescue this girl, and they give Xian this one handgun, and he gives this like philosophical speech or whatever, and everyone's just kind of looking at him. It's like it seemed relevant. Yeah, it was amusing.
Although he probably should have hit that one chick at the that one bar, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, old guy with experience. Yeah, yeah. So it's not as good as the first two movies, but I think if you enjoyed the first two movies, especially the second movie, because obviously David wasn't in the first. If you're invested enough in those characters, having them in the second movie helps to at least keep the movie to an enjoyable level for fans of the series. It certainly does take a bit of a backseat in the bad guy department, and even though I think Lane did he was a pretty despicable guy, and the guy that played him is a decent enough actor, it just feels a little... like, you wanted someone a bit more, I guess, similar to Tong Po, so a bit more of a bigger bad guy for David to really beat up at the end. I still give it an 8 out of 10, even though I can see a lot of other people giving it lower scores than that, but me being such a huge fan of number 2, that's enough to help make this one pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, so it probably comes as no surprise that I've never seen this one before. And I pretty much enjoyed it, just like a average action flick. I had an okay time with it. Interesting characters, really despicable villains. I'm just going to throw this one a 7 out of 10.
Okay, that's not too bad. That's a pretty good score from you.
Yeah, I forget what rating I gave the second movie.
I think you gave the second a 7 as well.
Yeah, I'll just say that from my experience, the Kickboxer sequels are at least better than the Bloodsport sequels. So there you go.
At least so far, but you haven't seen Kickboxer 5.
Oh boy.
Well, I haven't even seen it in a very long time, but it's from memory. It's not good.
That should be a good time.